Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. We promote positive method of training and behavior modification through stress-free methods. As part of that mission, we offer free webinars like the one you're about to watch. Subjects range from dog behavior, stress-free training, and other tools to help you understand your relationship with your dog. If you like the webinar, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Click the notification bell and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified when future videos are posted. Now enjoy the webinar.
Thanks for joining us today for our webinar, sponsored by Your Dog's Friend. Our speaker today is Kerrie Hoar. Kerrie is the owner and trainer at Crimson Hound. She's a certified professional dog trainer, a certified dog behavior consultant, a fear-free certified professional, and a family dog mediator. Just before Kerrie begins, I'd like to remind you that Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit. So if you find this webinar helpful, please consider making a donation to support these free webinars and our other free resources. Okay, well, let's get started with today's webinar.
All right, thanks so much, Jean. I'm really happy to be talking about this topic because it comes up so often. And when we're just going to start out with, when you look at these popular dog trainers on TikTok and other social media these days, this is what you see. Heeling for an entire walk. The dogs are walking lockstep right next to their owner. They're never straying from their side. They're ignoring everything around them. And I'm really not sure when this human construct of what a dog walk is supposed to look like came into vogue. But this is not the type of dog walk that I'm going to teach you about today, okay? What I'm going to do is go back to old school, teach you about the old school loose leash walking like we see in the quintessential movie 101 Dalmatians, where all the dogs are passing the window and you look at them and they're not walking directly by their owner's side. They are not pulling on the leash, but they're up ahead. And this is kind of what I'm gonna really look at today is how do you do this type of loose leash walking where the dog is walking with you, but not right by your side and not paying attention to anything else. So to heel or not to heel, that's the question. So knowing how to walk right by your side in a heel is absolutely, that is a skill that your dog should learn how to do because you're going to need it if you've got to walk through a crowd, if you've got to pass somebody on a busy sidewalk. But unless you're only walking your dog in downtown Manhattan at the busiest hour, your dog doesn't need to stay in the heel position for your entire walk. And, if you're walking on a quiet country road or a sidewalk, loose leash walking is really what should be your goal. It's it's unrealistic and it's really unfair to tell a dog that I'm going to take you out to this wonderful spot where it's quiet and there's lots of sounds and smells, but I'm going to make you walk right by my side. And so what we're going to start out with today is looking at equipment. We're going to look at what I would call the philosophy of a walk. We're going to look at foundational skills to teach your dog. We're going to look at how to get out the door and start off, and then a little bit of troubleshooting. So for equipment, you're going to need a leash, you're going to need a harness or a collar, preferably a harness, high value rewards. And then in order to mark your dog and tell him he's doing a great job, you're going to need either your voice or you're going to need a clicker to do that. So let's start with leashes. They come in tons of different types and styles and materials. I look for functionality and serviceability over, classy and style. So kind of the things you're looking at are materials. They come in a variety. Pick what suits your needs. You've got nylon, which is, it's going to be the least expensive, but they do get slippery when they're wet. You've got biothane shown here. They come in loads of different colors. They are easy to clean. They're waterproof. Then you've got that purple one that's kind of a rope style. Those ones I think get awfully bulky when you're trying to handle them, especially if you've got smaller hands. And then you've got the leash ones that hold up great if they're taken care of. They can last you a lifetime. But if you're not careful and you don't keep those up and out of the way, they're going to make a really enticing chew toy for a puppy. When you're looking at leashes, you've got the width, and the widths are sized to withstand a certain amount of stress, right? They're built for small dogs, medium-sized, big dogs. So when you choose your leash, look at the width and look at the instructions that tell you what size of a dog this is for, right? And that is both the leash material and the clip material is going to make a difference depending on the size of the dog. So you want to make sure that you've got it heavy enough to handle the pulling or the stress of a big dog, but vice versa. You don't want to pick a really huge one for a small dog that's going to be too heavy for them. You want something that's going to fit comfortably in your hand. That's my biggest kind of most important thing, is it's got to fit comfortably in my hand. This is one of the many downsides of these retractable leashes, is that handle is pretty big and bulky, especially if you've got a bigger dog, because the handle is bigger and it's hard to grip that sometimes, especially when your hands are wet or if you're wearing gloves or something like that. The rope style, again, this orange one and the red one here, or excuse me, the green one and the red one, that, see how bulky that gets in your hand when you're trying to fold it over? So those get pretty bulky. So think of, hold it in your hand, close your fist over it. Does it fit nicely in the palm of my hand? Can I double it over and still have it fit nicely in the palm of my hand? That's the leash you're looking for. Leash length. The standard for walking is 4 to 6 feet. I actually prefer something a little bit longer. I like an 8 to 10 foot leash that has a traffic handle. So what I mean by that is, here's the leash, the 8 or 10 foot leash, and it's got this handle down closer to the clip where you can get a hold if you need it for healing for the dog. If your leash doesn't have that, you can add a leash tab and clip that right onto the harness, so you can hold onto that if you need to get the dog snugged up next to you if you need him close to you. If you've got a big dog that's strong, or just, you know, just a big dog that's just got a lot of weight to him, a 2-point attachment leash can be really great. It's got a single handle that slides along the leash, and the 2 ends attach to 2 different points on the harness, one on the back and one on the front. And what this does is it adds a little bit more control, because you're not just holding onto the front of the back of the harness, you've got control at the front of the back, and it distributes the weight a little bit better if you've got one of those real big dogs. Leashes to avoid. First one is a slip lead. So these ones are made to tighten and constrict around the neck if the dog is pulling, and they don't have a stopper, so they just keep tightening and tightening and tightening and tightening, and they can cause some serious damage to some vital structures in the neck, like the trachea. The thyroid gland is in there, and you've got arteries and veins and nerves going up to the brain that can be constricted and affect blood flow to the brain if that constricts too long. The other thing I don't really like is these leash splitters. Yes, they're convenient if you want to walk 2 dogs on one leash, but the problem is it forces these 2 dogs to walk really close to each other. And that can add some aversion and some tension between the 2 dogs if they're stuck right next to a dog who's doing something that they don't really care for. And then finally, we've got the retractable leash. Yes, I'm going to say avoid that leash. It is popular because it allows the dog to move away for you to sniff, and, you know, and it doesn't pull on you as much. But there are some really significant drawbacks to these leashes. The first one is that the leash material itself, often you've got that small rope inside there. That can cause some serious rope burns and even amputations. I've seen people with fingers amputated. I've seen dogs with toes and tails amputated. If the dog gets spooked and takes off running and jerks that handle out of your grip, that handle, if the lock isn't on, it's going to race up the leash and slam to a stop right at the stopper. It can hit the dog. It can scare the bejesus out of them. If they are already scared and they're running, it's going to bang along behind them and create a scary object that's now chasing the dog. You know, and once they're out at the end of that leash, if you've got a bigger dog, it's hard to reel them back in. And even a small dog, once they get out, even to the end of a 6-foot leash, a small dog has a lot of leverage. And once they get out to the end of a 20-foot retractable leash, they've got a lot of leverage on you. And it's hard even to reel a smaller dog back in. The locking mechanism with a big dog that's a strong puller can break, and now you have no way of stopping them from getting out to the end. It's easy to miss a damage to the leash itself because it's all coiled up in there and you just don't tend to look at that. And then finally, I think that retractable leashes teach dogs to pull, because in order to move away from you, they have to pull on the leash, right? In order to get away from you, they have to pull, and that leash is on a string or on a spring. So it's always got tension pulling back on it. So the dog gets used to always, always, always having tension on the lead. And if you want them to walk as a loose leash, they're just not used to that because they're just used to it pulling. So I don't like those. Harnesses, you got, again, the same thing, the width of material, make sure that you've got a style that works well for you and for your dog. And then what we're really going to look at is fit and kind of the style of the leash, or I mean of the harness. With fit, this is the shoulder joint on the dog. This is his elbow joint. And you want those two joints to be free to move, all their motions allowed when the dog is walking with the harness on. So you don't want one that's going to cross over in front of their chest and constrict that. Your harness is going to have a leash strap that's going to lay comfortably at the base of their neck. It's going to have a girth strap that's going to lay over the rib cage. You don't want that snugged right up against the armpit because that can cause some chafing and restrict the elbow joint. So you want it to sit just a couple inches back behind the armpit. When we're looking at it from this view, we've also got a chest strap that runs underneath the belly, up between the legs and straight up the center of the chest, and it meets with the neck strap right in the middle of the chest. And it makes kind of a Y shape. That's what you're looking for in a harness. This, you can see the shoulder joint's going to be about right here again. The elbow joint's right here, and you can see that's completely free of any leash material. And then finally, you're going to want one that's adjustable in size. And how tight should the straps be? What you want to be able to do is lay 2 to 3 fingers flat against the dog's body. So not tipped out, but flat against the dog's body, in between the girth and the body of the dog, and be able to slide your fingers in there easily, right? That's going to be about the snugness that you want. It's going to keep it tight enough that the dog can't pull out of the harness, but loose enough that he can breathe. And so looking at these ones, the ones on the left here, the ones marked yes, are the ones that are allowing, you can see with this dog that's moving, there's the shoulder joint, there's the elbow joint, and you see how he's got totally free movement right there. And then these other harnesses that have that Y shape are allowing free movement as well. Over here on the right-hand side, we have these kind of no pull styles that purposely cross in front of the chest. And this one crosses right in front of the shoulder joint. So if this is tightened up to the 2 to 3 finger sliding under, it's going to constrict his shoulder movement a lot. Again, this one as well. This one at the bottom I threw in just because you've got to kind of think of the size of the dog as well. Excuse me. This little pug is wearing kind of a pretty big and bulky harness. It might be heavy on his old bones, and it's also constricting here at the shoulder a little bit as well. Couple of miscellaneous types of harnesses. When we look at these basket or step-in harnesses, the other style that we looked at are you would put the head through and then strap the harness around the girth. These ones are those step-in ones where the dog's got to put his feet in the holes and then you pull it up over his back and clip it. Some dogs don't really like to put their feet in it, so it takes a little bit more training to get them to be willing to put their feet in there. Also, as far as harnesses go, if they are fit correctly, this is the style that I have seen dogs slip out of more often than any other style. You've got this double girth one. So there's a second girth strap that fits back closer to the far back end of the rib cage. This can work really well for dogs that don't have that quintessential narrowing around the abdomen, right? So it fits right about here. If your dog is pretty squared off, having that second girth strap can keep it more secure. So thinking of like an English bulldog or French bulldog or some of your pitties that are more blocky style. Also works excellent for dogs that are front amputees, because that first girth strap is not going to work as well if the dog is missing this leg. But having that second one back there is going to allow you for a secure fit with a harness and not having to use a collar if you don't need to. And then finally, we've got thinking about additional padding. This one's got that leopard material underneath. Thinking about that with a dog that's got a short coat. So I'm thinking greyhound, because I had a greyhound and she chafed really easily on her where she was moving back here in the chest area. So having that extra padding worked really well. Thinking about dogs with long hair or curly coats, sometimes that causes some matting in the armpit area. So you've got to, again, think of your individual dog of what's going to work the best. When we're thinking about collars, some dogs don't like harnesses. They don't like having all that equipment on them, and that's okay. So fit a collar. If your dog is walking on a loose leash, collars are fine too. Harnesses are more desirable in case the dog runs and hits the end of the leash, but if your dog doesn't like a harness, he doesn't like a harness. Thinking about material, again, you're thinking about the same thing as you're thinking about for your leash or your harness. Style-wise, you've got the old-fashioned buckle type that this dog is holding, and then you've got the clip type that the puppy in the middle is wearing. The buckle style is a little more secure. Clips can break because they're plastic. So if you've got a dog that's pretty strong and you're worried about him pulling, those clips can break. So a buckle collar might be the better thing. Again, these fit length and width the same as you would with a leash and a harness. Again, the tightness is at 2 to 3 fingers between their neck and the collar band itself, and that's the snugest you want it to be. If you have a dog like a sight hound that's got a small head, or if you've got a dog with a head and a neck that are about the same size, like again, looking at your bully breeds, these regular fit traditional collars can pretty easily slide off over their head. So something like a martingale collar, and again, as you always hear, if used properly, but the martingale collars are made so that they will tighten up just to snug behind the ears so that they're worn loosely, but as the dog pulls and it gets up towards the top of their ears, it tightens up just enough so it won't slip over their head. It doesn't constrict. So if you do try out a martingale collar, touch base with somebody who knows how to fit them correctly so that it is not constricting any of the organs and stuff in the neck. Head collars, I see a lot of these. They might be a good option if you have got a strong dog and a small person, or a strong dog and someone who's physically challenged trying to handle that dog, but only under the supervision of a professional trainer, because this is not a tool to prevent or to teach loose leash walking. This is a tool to use as a safety harness after the dog already knows how to walk on a loose leash. When that dog pulls, or if it runs and hits the end of the leash with a head collar on, that is going to twist their head either down or up or to the side, and that can cause some major damage to the muscles in the spine and the neck. So never put a head collar on a dog unless they have first been acclimated to it and they already know how to walk on a loose leash. Then we have the what to avoids. I avoid prong collars. I avoid choke or slip collars. I avoid shock training, sport e-collars, whatever you want to call them. These collars all work on the principle of using the avoidance of something unpleasant or avoiding pain to suppress behavior. So if the dog pulls and the prongs dig into his neck, he's going to stop pulling because it's uncomfortable, right? So they can look like they're an instant fix, right? Look, I put a prong collar on my dog and he no longer pulls, woohoo. The problem is that it has not stopped the desire to pull. So as soon as you take the prong collar off and take that dog for a walk, he's going to be pulling again. So it's not teaching him anything. It's all it's teaching him is when that collar is on, in order to avoid pain, I better not pull. It can also create a lot of fallout and things like aggression towards the owner, aggression towards dogs or people. It can create fear of the owner, fear of going for walks, fear of the collar. It can fracture relationships. There's a lot of fallout that can be caused by these. And yes, there are dogs that have no fallout, But the problem is you don't know if there's going to be fallout until you see fallout, right? So you can't predict it. So this URL that I put down at the bottom, Eileen Anderson writes a fabulous blog called Eileen and Dogs. And she's done several of them on the fallout of aversives. So I would encourage you to check out her blog and read some of her stuff, but also look at the ones that she's written about fallout. So rewards should be high value, whether that's food, play, a tug toy. If you're looking at food, they should be small, easy to fit in your hand, easy to fit a lot of them in your hand, chewy and stinky. That makes them more higher value. And then you're going to need some way to mark what you want the dog to be doing. Good job. And tell them that a reward is going to be available now because you did exactly what I want. So you can use your voice. Good. Yes. I find that the easiest, but you can also use a clicker. Those work just as well. So looking at like the philosophy of a walk, right? So first of all, why do dogs pull on leash? And I'm just going to run this through really quickly.
Don't even fucking talk to me.
A couple of words in here and I apologize for that.
God damn it.
All right, so what do those things have in common? The dog is pulling, right? But he's pulling towards something he wants to check out. So things to think about. Why do dogs pull on leash? Number one, they're not pre-programmed. They don't come with the knowledge of how to walk nicely on leash. This is something we have to teach them. They don't know not to pull on it. A dog's natural gait is not a walk. It's an amble or a trot. And that's just naturally faster than humans' natural walking gait. So they're faster than us. They get ahead of us. They start to pull on the leash. Why is it always big dogs that pull more than small dogs? Because their stride is longer. And add that to the trot or the amble, that makes their natural gait even faster than ours. What are they pulling towards? The smells. Dogs' strongest sense is their smell. Their olfactory system is amazing. It's more highly developed than it is in humans. So basically your dog is a walking nose. Right? So think of it this way. You are a walking pair of eyeballs. Imagine that you are at a craft fair or an auto show or whatever thing that you like to go to, a museum. Would you be happy to just view everything from a distance? Or do you want to get in there and take a closer look? Do you want to look at that car from 100 feet away and say, oh, cool. Or do you want to get in there and look at the engine and look at the inside? Picture a child with their first time in Disneyland. Are they going to walk right beside mom and dad when they see Mickey Mouse for the first time? No, they're going to pull in their hand and say, oh my God, Mickey Mouse, I want to go see him. Your dog's doing the same thing. They just want to get to that smell. If you've got a dog, especially an adolescent dog who's been waiting all day for you to get home from work, you have a whole lot of energy to burn off. And walking at your pace for a mile or two is not realistic. It's not a fair expectation. It is not going to burn off the steam. So things to think about for a walk. Remember the purpose of your walk. This is your dog's time, right? He wants to sniff. He wants to stop. Let him. You know, this is the way dogs communicate, right? We read our email, read Facebook. They walk and they want to sniff and see who's walked past in the last 24 hours, who's peed on the communal wall, whatever. Just be patient. Think of it, start reframing the walk. Instead of saying, I need to get in 2 miles before dinner, think of it as I have 30 minutes for a dog walk before dinner. If your dog wants to spend that 30 minutes on one block sniffing everything, give him the choice to do that. It's his choice. It's his walk, right? If you want to go on a power walk by yourself, go by yourself, but let your dog have his walk the way he wants it to be. Remember to be proactive and not reactive, right? You know, set your dog up for success rather than setting him up so that he makes a mistake and then you can correct it. So we have to start thinking about how we can make it easier for the dog to be successful and reward him for success rather than letting him fail so that we can correct him. Walking's a team sport. Walking is a wonderful way to strengthen your relationship with your dog. So talk to him, label things he's interested in. If he looks at a squirrel, label it. Oh, cool, there's a squirrel. Praise him for checking in with you. Point out some animal fur or a gopher hole or something that he's missed along the way, or show interest in what he's looking at. Oh, that's cool. What is it? If you ignore your dog on your walk, then your dog's going to ignore you. And you very quickly become nothing more than the anchor that's preventing him from getting to the thing he wants to get to. And now he's pulling and he's not checking in with you. Okay, so engage with your dog. As I mentioned, engagement is really, really important. Your dog can't be engaging with you and pulling on a leash at the same time. Just doesn't work. So the key to loose leash walking is engagement, getting that dog to engage with you. Consistency. Consistency creates patterns. The brain is designed to recognize patterns, so capitalize on that, right? Place your rewards where you want your dog to be. If you want your dog to walk on the left-hand side like this guy has, then reward him at your left knee every time. Reward check-ins with food or play or praise so that your dog wants to check in with you all the time. Talk to your dog so he knows what's happening and what's going to happen. So for example, if you want to teach your dog a cue for slowing down or heel or turn right, turn left, instead of just turning left and dragging your dog along with you, say left and he'll know what to do. And then there's no pulling. If you want your dog to learn to stop and wait at curbs and not just walk out into the street, well, then teach him to stop and wait at every single curb, regardless of whether or not there's traffic coming. Stop at every single curb, and then it becomes a pattern, and they stop at every single curb. Loose leash walking starts at home. You have to teach skills for the moment, not in the moment, right? So in the house, reward your dog every time he comes over and checks in with you. If you're working on your computer and he comes over and lays his head on your lap, check in, great job, what you doing? Give him a treat, give him a pet. Use the games that we're gonna talk about here in just a second to increase your engagement with the dog. Start in a quiet place with no distractions and then slowly add distractions in as your dog is able to be successful with the skill that you're teaching him. Master the skills in the house before taking them into the backyard where it's kind of quiet, before taking it in the front yard where it's a little more busy, and finally, before you take it on the road. Don't advance to a new level until your dog is successful at the current level. Okay, so foundational skills. First thing I teach every single dog I work with is find it. What you're going to do is just treats in your hand. You're going to say find it. You're going to drop a treat on the ground. Nothing more advanced than that. All your dog has to do is when you say find it, he looks at the floor for food. Instant gratification, dogs love it.
Okay, this is just a quick video to show you just the very basics of the Find It game. So what we're doing is, again, we're just trying to get their nose on the ground, getting them snuffling around for treats. They're going to start out actually following with their eyes. But once they learn the game, we can move it into more difficult settings, like out in the grass, where we can toss some treats out in the grass, where then they're actually forced to use their nose to start looking for things with their nose, and really brings their pulse down and helps out with a lot of the stress-related anxiety and things that a lot of our dogs have. So super easy to teach. You just say find it, and every time you say find it, you drop a treat on the ground. Start out close to the dog, so find it. Super easy. Find it. Find it. As they catch on, you can make it a little harder. Find it. Get them to move a little farther away. Find it. Find it. And once they get good at it, then we start doing things like directing them with it. So if he's in front of me and I decide I need him behind me for some reason, I can do that easily with a find it. Rather than going and grabbing him by the collar and moving him, we can move him with a find it. So Pippin, find it. And now that he's back there, I can keep him back there by continuing to toss treats back there for him. Find it. Find it. Find it. Good. Good, so that's just the basics of the find it cue.
All right, so super simple. We're not doing huge skill building things. We're doing super simple little exercises that anybody can teach their dog in 5 minutes. The next one is how to follow a lure. Again, dogs don't come pre-programmed to follow along with us, so we need to teach them. Here's how to do that. Now she's clicking when the dog is doing what she wants and giving him a reward. You can just say good or yes. See how she's holding that food right in front of his nose and he's following along behind it. Okay. So you're just building that ability or that skill of knowing how to follow you. The up-down game, again, super simple. This is a pattern game that was created by Leslie McDevitt. Super easy engagement game. All you're doing is when the dog looks up at you, that's your cue to put a treat down on the floor. And you just repeat that over and over again. You can say good, you don't have to. Okay. This is meant to be extremely repetitive. It was created to help anxious dogs have a coping skill in very distracted areas, but it works really well to get your dog's attention back on you when you've lost it on a walk. Okay. So here's up, down. Treat goes down. And I just wait him out. I don't call him. I don't say anything. He's looking to see if I drop more than one. He looks up. I put another treat down. Right. He just finished scavenging for treats in the basement, and we do it all the time on the floor. So he's looking for more than one treat. But that's fine. That just, I just wait him out, wait for him to look back up at me, and then I give him a treat. That's all it is. That's all there is to the up-down game. Next, we have Chirag Patel's counting game, and I'm going to turn my sound down a little bit because the music in this is very loud. But take a look at this one. What he's doing is he's placing on the treats on the ground and counting as he places each one. And the dog comes over and eats them, and he moves to a new spot and starts doing it again. So take a look.
One, two, three.
Look at how fast that dog learned that game. Right, super easy to teach, and your dog learns it really quickly, and it's fun. You can tell the dog's having fun with that. The next one I like is another one of Leslie McDevitt's pattern games. It's 1, 2, 3 walking. So what you're doing here is you decide which side you want your dog to stay on. So in this case, it's on her right. You're going to always reward on 3. What you're going to do is you're going to walk. Each step you take, you count. Step 1, step 2, step 3, give a treat. You count out loud so the dog can hear it. Okay, so step 1, step 2, step 3, treat comes down at your right side and you feed at your right knee, right? Reward at the same side every time and use the same side hand. So she's holding the leash handle in her left hand to free her right hand up to deliver the treat right down to the dog. And I'll explain to you in a minute why you want to do that.
1, 2, 3. Good. There, you can keep going.
So one thing I want you to notice here is she pauses a little bit and watch the dog when she's not counting. She kind of goes off and does her own thing and then hones back in when she starts counting. So you don't pause with counting. You just continuously count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
One.
Right, so she
Good.
started forging ahead when she didn't hear
So she's
anything.
catching on to come back to that same side every time. So just keep up a steady counting instead of pausing for a little bit. So just keep up a steady counting.
All right, so see how that works? Again, they learn it super quickly. They have fun with it. They're very willing to do it. You've got a happy dog walking right at your side. If you've got a small dog, instead of having to reach way down there, you can use a lick stick, which is almost it's created by Leslie McDevitt, but it's like a licky mat attached to a stick. And you can smear peanut butter or something like that on there, some squeezed cheese. You can do the same thing if you've got like a long handled wooden spoon, or if you use a chuck-it ball with your dog, if you've got the launcher handle, hold on to the handle, and in the part where the ball goes in, put some peanut butter or squeezed cheese in there, and you can tap that down and let them lick out of that on number 3 each time. Then we've got silly walking, sometimes called drunken walking. This one's just another fun game to play inside or outside with your dog, but you're not walking for very long at all in a straight line. You're going to weave back and forth, you're going to speed up, you're going to slow down, you're going to turn circles, and you're going to reward your dog every time they're at the side that you want them to be on when you're walking. So in this case, it's on my left side. So every time he's on my left side, I reward him. Okay. So this gives the dog no chance really to forge ahead because you're not walking for a long time in a straight line, and it gets rewards. Now Pippin, when I took this the other day, is 14 now, so he's not quite as agile as he used to be, but he's doing his best to make those quick changes and stick by my side with his friend Possum over here on the couch licking peanut butter out of a topple. So give him a little grace, but it shows you what it looks like when there's a little bit of distraction. And I'm not really saying anything other than praise. You know, so if you've got more room, you can run, you can turn, you know, spin circles, whatever. But this is what silly walking looks like. And it teaches your dog to pay attention to you because you're a silly person and you're not making any sense. There's no pattern to your walking. So I need to keep an eye on you to know when I'm going to get my treat and where you're going. Okay, now getting out of the door and starting off. How many people's day with their dog starts out like this?
After 5 already. Fancy that. All right, Pongo. All right, boy. Pongo boy, take it easy. What's all the hurry? Oh, Pongo boy, slow down.
All right, so how many people have a dog that's what your walk looks like, right? You're just an anchor back there and your dog is off on an adventure by himself. So how do we get started with slowing that down? First of all, exercise your dog before you go for a walk. It's much easier to teach a tired dog loose leash skills when they're not over exuberant and need to do that. So when you're starting out teaching it, if you are doing this after work, if your dog's got to go potty, let him go outside, take care of his business, and then play with him, right? Play a bit of fetch, tug, flirt, pull, chase, get him to run off some of that energy. And then follow this with a scatter feed. Throw some food on the floor or on the ground, let him pick that up and sniff around for it, or in a snuffle mat. That allows him to bring that energy back down so that he's calm before you start out for your walk. That's number one. Next thing you should always do is check your equipment, make sure everything's in good shape before you leave. Then we want to keep calm when we're attaching equipment. We want to do it calmly. We don't want them jumping all over us and going around and won't stand still. So we're going to stay calm and label it, right? If you want to put on the harness, you're going to say harness, and you're going to ask your dog to stand still while you do that. If he isn't able to stand still, hold some treats right in front of his nose to keep him still while you're putting the harness on until he learns that he needs to stand still. Once he learns what the deal is, then just wait him out. If you're trying to click on the leash and your dog is jumping all over the place and he won't sit down, wait him out. Don't say anything. Just wait till he sits down. Yeah, it might take you 10 minutes to get out the front door the first few times, but it's going to get faster and the benefits are going to pay off. You're going to have a calm walk instead of having a pongo going out the door. Before I go any farther, how do you hold the leash so it's not injuring you or being drug out of your hands, and so that you can handle treats pretty easily? Two main ways to do this. On the left-hand side here, we've got the two hands. So we're going to assume that she wants the dog to walk on her right-hand side where the dog is standing. So she's going to hold the handle in her left hand, and she's going to hold about halfway down the leash in her right hand. That way she can drop that middle of the leash with her right hand and easily access treats and feed from her right hand. The reason you want to feed treats on the same side that your dog is walking on is if you are trying to get the dog to heel next to you and stay next to you. If you're reaching across your body to feed them a treat, they're going to be fed in front of you instead of beside you. So they're going to start surging and turning in front of you to get to that treat faster. So feed from the same hand that the dog is walking on. The thumb or finger lock is the one that I like the best. That's these top three photos. What you're going to do there is the handle is going to hook over your thumb, and then you're going to reach down partway down the leash and you're going to make a second loop, and that's either going to go over your finger or over your thumb as a second loop. Then you're going to take all the trailing pieces and fist them in your palm and hold on to them. Now, the part of the leash that's attached to the dog is locked over your finger so that if your dog pulls, the leash is not going to slide through your hand. And then finally, especially if you've got a big dog, don't wrap that leash around your hand or your wrist. If that dog starts pulling, it's going to cause some damage on your hand. You can get tendon damage, broken bones, broken vessels. So get out of the habit of wrapping the leash if that's what you do. Waiting at the door. Again, everything we want to be calm, 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 calm as we're heading for the door. So we're going to ask the dog to wait at the door until I open it and we can go out in a nice fashion. I'm not doing this because I'm dominant or anything else. I could care less who goes out the door first. I just want the dog to go out in a calm fashion. So I'm just going to ask him to sit and wait at the closed door. Then I'm going to reach for the door handle. And if he gets up, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to ask him to sit or wait for him to sit back down. And then we reach for the handle again. And I'm just going to keep repeating this in small increments until he can sit, until I have the door all the way open. And then I'm going to release him to go out the door. Now, once you've got this part of it down, you can advance it to once he's out on your stoop, wait for him to turn and look at you and reward him for that. That'll build a new pattern so that once he's out the door, he doesn't fly off the front step and drag you along behind him like in that video I played, the funny leash video with the girl trying to lock her door. He's going to turn back at you and wait for that reward. If you're interested in, if you have a dog that kind of rushes the door, Chirag Patel, if you look him up, look for the Staying Calm Around Doorways video. He's got a great 5-minute one on how to teach kind of a longer wait at the door. Then it all goes into calm, focused start. This is a puppy I worked with. I worked with him and his brother. They both had issues with paying attention to their person on walks, and they were just off on their own. And so I'm probably not going to play this all the way through, but I want you to kind of see some of the things I used.
1, 2, 3.
Turn sound back up again. So I'm starting with 1, 2, 3. So one of the things we were trying to teach is the dogs not dragging mom and dad off the steps, and they had multiple sets of steps to go off of. I'm just gonna bump forward a little bit. Okay, so we're back up here. I'm trying to play up down with him. Yes, he's doing pretty good. Then I threw a treat over this way. And now I've lost him. And this is the same thing that the family was going through, is they were just completely losing the dog's attention and they were just off in their own world. So I tried waiting for him to come back. So now I decided to try the counting game. He recognizes counting because I had been doing 1, 2, 3 walking with him.
1, 2.
So really what I wanted you to get out of this video is that he's not ready to go out on the road to go for a walk. He cannot pay attention to me right at the front door. So there's no way he's going to be able to pay attention to me when we're walking down the street with lots more distractions. So if this is the case, stay here until your dog can be very successful and use other ways, playing games and things like that, to burn off the energy, and wait before you go for a walk because he's just not ready. Okay, so healing, walking the dog right by your side. Again, I don't think this should be the whole walk, but you do need it if you've got to walk through a crowd or past somebody. So it needs to have a cue to start it. You need to tell the dog either heel or with me or something, so he knows that he needs to come up next to you. You need to reward him on the side that you want him on. You need to give him lots of praise and rewards for staying there. And then you need to have a cue to release him from that position so he knows when he's allowed to go sniff. Okay, so you're going to lure him into the position on your side so he's facing the same way you are, and then off we go. Heel and off we go. Every time he looks up at you, we're going to feed him a lot, right? And ways to help teach this: 1, 2, 3 works great. Silly walking works great because, again, he's got to pay attention to you because he doesn't know where you're going to go. And this takes lots and lots of practice, especially when you start adding distractions. Okay. As he gets better at this, you're not going to want to have to feed him constantly as you're walking. So you're going to start to fade the rewards. So you can start mixing in some lower value treats. You can ask for a bit longer of a heel before you give the next reward, right? But one of the points I want to make is don't expect your dog to get to the point where he's going to heel for an entire 45-minute walk and never get rewarded. Because dogs do what works for them. And if healing is not working to get him a reward at some point, he's not going to do it anymore. I wouldn't. So carry a treat bag and reward those behaviors that you really want and need to have your dog perform, and perform with gusto. Okay, so here's a little video of 1, 2, 3 with walking with a little dog named Buddy.
Very nice. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, so he's staying right by my side.
1, 2, 3.
You're getting more than a
Good
couple
boy.
steps.
1, 2, 3. Good job.
Okay, so how can you fade out 1, 2, 3? You're not going to just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and then treat. You always reward on 3. So instead of increasing the numbers, you're going to increase how many steps you do between your counts. So let's say your dog's gotten really good at it. You're going to maybe say 1 at the beginning of the block. We walk, and about halfway down the block, you say 2. And then we walk to the end of the block, we say 3 and reward, right? So you fade, you increase the number of steps between counting, but you always reward on 3. And then eventually you can just fade out counting. I always bring it back in though once in a while because, you know, it's a really good, it works as a recall too when they're kind of away from you a little bit. So, you know, bring it back in so that they keep strong with the ability to do that. A treat magnet. When you're first starting out, if you encounter a big crowd and you need your dog to stay next to you, but he hasn't learned heel very well yet, or if he knows heel and the distractions are just too big, use that treat magnet. So hold that food like you saw in teaching how the dog how to follow you. Hold that food right in front of his nose and watch how this dog follows right behind. See how he's holding that food right in front of the dog's mouth? Now, when you turn, you're going to take the dog with you as you turn and keep him on the, keep him feeding him from the same side. He's switching hands, but you can see how that treat magnet works, right? So keep that in mind. You can always, always, always use that if you need to get down a hallway in an apartment, something like that. Good treat magnets, you can have a handful of little pieces of hot dog that you're going to feed one at a time as he's, just feed him out of your fingers as he goes. You can have a Kong full of peanut butter or squeezed cheese and just hold that down in front of his nose and let him lick it while he walks. You can do that wooden spoon thing with the peanut butter right in front of your dog's nose and lead him. Okay. So that's how you're going to get started on the heel part of it. And then we're going to be able to release them to loose leash walking to sniff and have fun. Now, if you have a dog who's done nothing but healing, he may not know it's okay to sniff. So you have to have a cue to say release or go sniff or whatever. You might have to teach him to sniff, right? So throw some treats in the grass, point out some interesting things. If you want to go places that are loads and loads of smells, think of along fence lines. Parking lots have lots and lots of smells, especially car tires. Alleys are fabulous. Grass clippings or leaf piles, or if you just had a storm and a bunch of branches fell out of a tree. I mean, how often does a dog get to sniff what's been happening 50 feet above him, right? And so explore, let them explore and sniff. This video shows you, and I'm going to turn off the sound because I don't think it's that helpful. This is my two dogs walking the other day. These are 8-foot leashes. You can see that green one's got that traffic handle on it. So if I need to do some healing, I've got it right there. But look at how the two of them don't need to stay next to each other. They've got some room to get around. If I was doing a 4-foot leash, they wouldn't be able to get very far away from me to do some sniffing and stuff, right? And so they can walk along, get a little bit ahead of me, get behind me. And their next destination is going to be a tree, and see how they can just, he's not pulling that loose. That leash is still, getting loose a little bit. He's not pulling me, but he's got room to move along at his pace and take a look at stuff. Right. And they can turn off the boulevard ahead of me and sniff a tree. And again, I've got that traffic handle in case I do need to get him up close to me. Okay. And so I would think of doing most of my walk, the vast majority of walks, letting them sniff and look at things, a very small amount of my walk healing when it's needed. All right. Troubleshooting, I just got a couple of things. This is Buddy again. He was getting lost in space a whole lot. So if your dog is pulling and they are out ahead of you and they have totally lost the idea that you're back there, just stop and be a tree. Stop and be a tree. Wait for them to turn back and look at you, and then start the up-down game. Okay?
Okay, so I have totally lost his attention. He's just looking around, listening for sounds, stuff like that. So I am going to try and play the up-down game with him. So anytime he gives me any eye contact or looks towards my face at all, I'm going to mark it with a good and put a treat on the floor on the ground by my feet. And just trying to get him to connect with me because he's totally lost in his watching for things space.
Notice how he's turning towards me, but he's not looking at me. That's not when you're rewarded. We're waiting for him to show me eye contact. And then we're going to reward the heck out of it.
Good boy.
There we go. Right there.
There we go. Good job. And then this little good boy.
Right, and then we're just going to repeat this
because
until
that breaks eye contact.
We've got his attention. I'm still losing him here. He's still looking around. He's not looking right back up at me.
To look up at me again when he's ready.
Turn the sound off here. So I still don't have him. So he's not ready to move farther along on the walk. So what you want to do is stand there and be a tree and play that up-down game until you've really got them sucked in and they're looking up and looking down, looking up and looking down. Then we're ready to move off on the walk again. They start pulling again, stop and be a tree, play the up-down game again. If they're just pulling to sniff things that are just out of reach, again, think about a little bit longer leash. That 8 to 10 foot length lets them get to those things that are just off on the side of the sidewalk, but still allows you to have control and without pulling on you. If you have that big dog that has that much longer gait and faster gait than you, planning on walking in big circles on your walk really works well. Denise Fenzi came up with this. So if you're interested in learning more about this, check out Fenzi Dog Sport Academy. She offers a circle walking webinar once in a while. But basically, you're just, she doesn't talk, so I'm going to turn the sound off. But you're just going to turn in a big circle, not a little tiny circle, because if you keep doing that, you're just going to get dizzy. So we're thinking big circles. Right? This lets the dog walk at his own pace. And when he eventually gets around to you where he's by your side, reward him for that, right? And so think about doing that when you've got a bigger dog whose pace is just naturally faster than yours. Finally, the last troubleshooting thing I've got is, or actually I've got one more. If you need to shorten the leash quickly, here's a really quick way to do that.
So when you have your dog pulling on a leash, don't reel your leash in or pull your dog to you with your arm. You're going to step to the dog and shorten your leash length. Okay? So you're going to step to the dog and shorten your leash length. Even though I don't have that much tension on my leash here, you're still going to step and shorten.
Okay, that allows you to quickly shorten your leash without trying to reel it in on your hand. And then finally, if you have a dog that's biting the leash, they can be doing that for multiple reasons. A lot of times, if you just have the leash clipped to the back of the harness instead of the front or the collar, it's not hanging around their mouth and, you know, giving them the idea to, it's right by my mouth, I'm just going to grab it. It could be frustration. It could be a dog that just wants to have something in his mouth. So you can solve this by bringing along a tug toy. And when he goes to reach for the leash, replace that with the tug toy and let him pull that or carry it around with him. Some dogs love to just carry a toy in their mouth when they go on a walk, and that's okay. If you're trying to work on, you know, getting them to drop it, use drop and then do a find it, right? Say drop and find it, and then they're going to drop the leash, look for food on the ground. Real quick and easy way to manage that. If you're really struggling with it and you need a way to keep the dog from chewing up every leash you have while he's learning this, you can do a little bit of management by either picking up a leash that's made out of either chain or airline cable, aircraft cable that they can't chew through, and it's not really pleasant to chew on. Or you can take a piece of PVC pipe and use it to make a sleeve over your leash. The length is just going to depend on how far up he's chewing. So you want it to cover up to that point. And then he's going to end up grabbing the PVC pipe, which isn't fun. So he's going to let go of it. When he lets go of it, in either of those cases, you're going to reward him for doing so, right? So those are a couple of short-term solutions for that leash chewing. When are you going to contact a professional? If you have difficulty controlling your dog, if your dog is barking and lunging at other people or dogs, if he's got high prey drive and he's going after squirrels or cats and you have trouble controlling him, contact a professional. If your dog is super fearful and he's just struggling with walks in general, contact a professional because you're going to approach this in a whole different way. And then finally, I'm just going to leave you with this.
I saw it. You found a bunny, didn't you? I know.
right, thanks for listening, and here's how you can contact me. My website is crimsonhound.com. You can email me at crimsonhoundtraining@gmail.com, and my Facebook and Instagram. I'm always posting daily things. I've got monthly topics that I do in posts at Crimson Hound Training for both of those.
Kerrie, that was great. All right, well, we definitely have questions in chat.
Yeah, perfect.
So basically, the first question was from Lee, saying, I heard that front clip harnesses are more humane and there is less pulling. Is that true? Or you speak to that?
More humane than a prong collar, a slip collar, a e-collar, absolutely. If you have one of the ones that crosses the chest, it does restrict the movement of the shoulders, and that can be an issue with your dog down the road. But if you can get those Y-shaped ones that have a clip in the front. And basically what happens if you clip it in the front, when the dog pulls, it turns him towards you. And that can be very helpful in teaching them to stop pulling. Some dogs it works really well on, other dogs not so much, but it's definitely something to try. But I would look for that Y-shaped structure with a clip in the front that doesn't restrict the shoulder joints.
Excellent. Sherry says that her dog keeps going back and forth from side to side while she walks him. I only treat him on the left side and want him to stay on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Any
So she does
recommendations
already
about that?
treat him only on the left side?
She does, yes.
Okay. So what I would do is, if he's moving back and forth, is start with an area that has all the interesting stuff on the left side. So he wants to stay more on that side and treat him more often. So just every single time he's by your side, give him a treat until he learns that those treats are going to come often at the left side and they only come on the left side. And so he's going to stick more to the left side. If he's going forward and up the side and behind you on the left side, totally fine. We just don't want him crossing over. So I would, to start out, I would like make it more interesting on the left side. So he wants to stay there to sniff, and then do more treats more often on the left side and see if that helps.
Great. What about, this is Lee again. Her dog is hyper at the beginning of the walk, wanting to sprint and pulling. How do you keep the dog calm at the beginning of the walk? And it's a 1-year-old dog.
Okay, so that starts in the house. Remember, we want to get his energy out first. So we want to play with him a little bit in the yard before we go, or in the house. You can play tug anywhere. And then we want to start out calmly. So he needs to sit to have all his equipment put on, right? He needs to be calm for that. He needs to wait at the door so he's calm. He needs to wait at the steps so he's calm. And when we start off, you can do some finder or some scatter feeds. So like as soon as he surges to the front of the leash, say find it, and have him do a couple finders right in front of you, or throw some food in the grass right there and get him sniffing. I will often do that for the first couple of blocks. When my Aussie was younger, everything on a walk was the first 2 blocks he was a maniac. And so I did a lot of find it and scatter feeds the first part of the walk. Every other sidewalk block, I would stop and have him do a find it. And so he was slowing down and sniffing. And then I would stop, every half a block and do a little scatter feed in the grass. And that just got him at a slower pace. And if you can get him started at a slower pace at the beginning, it tends to stick at that slower pace for longer. But if you've got a young dog, you've got to get that energy out first, because a 2-mile walk isn't going to get the energy out anyway. So tug, fetch, flirt, pull, chase, something that you can do with him to get some of that energy out before you're trying to practice loose leash walking.
And this question, Kerrie, from Susan is similar. Her year-old lab every few months has an episode of trying to do zoomies when on a leash walk. What's the best way to handle that or avoid that? Is that the same answer, or is there something else?
Kind of, but the other thing you do is, for either one of those dogs, bring a toy along, bring a tug toy along. And when they start getting a little rambunctious and wild, stop and play tug with them for a few minutes, and then do a scatter feed to calm them back down, and then start walking again. Because a lot of those dogs, they're just that adolescent brain. They just have this energy and it has to come out. and it has to come out right now, right? They have no impulse control. And so bring along something that you can help them get that energy out with in the moment without running around you like a crazy dog. Bring a tug toy, get them to play tug with you for a minute, and then calm them down a little bit by doing a little bit of find it, and then start walking again.
That adolescent brain, right? That
Yes. Yeah. And, we have to do everything we can because their brain is not functioning correctly. I mean, anybody who says a teenager knows that adolescent brains are not functioning properly. Same with an adolescent dog. So you have to do things to help them be successful until they get their brain functioning again. And it can be, I mean, if you have a golden retriever, they can be 4 years old before they get out of that adolescent stage. So think of the ways that you can get him to do what you want him to do and be successful without correcting him. How can I proactively help him?
Okay. Julie says that her dog always seems to want to walk in the middle of people's yards or up to their front doors. How does she redirect her dog from that kind of activity?
I don't like my dogs going to the bathroom up in people's lawns. But if they want to kind of go off the sidewalk a little bit and sniff, I let my dogs do it. If they want to go sniff the steps, go for it. I mean, I don't let them hang out there. I don't let them pee all over stuff in somebody's yard, but I do let them sniff a little bit and then I call them back to me. Because there's interesting things up there to sniff. There's been a dog up there. There's been people up there, and it's just adds some different smells that they might want to check out. So I would allow it unless the person's, has a no dogs here sign. But let them do it, but not to the point where they're soiling or peeing on things in the yard.
Okay. Melissa asked about if there are places to go off leash in the area, and I just mentioned Sniff Spot. I don't know if you want to just explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so Sniff Spot, you can sign up for it. It's an app. It's also on the computer. Basically, it is people who are renting out property that they rent out for an hour at a time for somebody to come and let their dog run wild on. So it can be anything from a small yard to, we've got a couple around here that are like 50 acres. Some of them are fenced, some of them are not. So you need to check that out. But check out the Sniff Spot app. The other thing you can do, if you go on my website and look at my blog page, I did one on how to find places to sniff. I think it's called How to Do a Sniffari. And I kind of went over how to check your map to look for places that you can let your dog roam. So you might have in your area, you might be able to walk dogs in cemeteries. That's a great place. Parks. If you've got trail systems, there may be places that you can go out on that there might be an open field that you can let them sniff around on. So, bring up a map and just check for areas for sniffing. My dogs, the closest place that I have is the university. And so that end video that I did where my dogs were sniffing and barking at rabbits and stuff, that was at the university. And I go over there all the time and I don't spend much time at all on the sidewalk. I just walk in the grass and let the dogs sniff the bushes. And I always clean up after myself. There's never been a problem. But there are ways that you can find those bigger spaces in your area that you can walk to, or find a sniff spot or something that you can drive your dog to.
Sniff spots really are amazing. It's all over the country. So even if you're on vacation and you need a place, you can look it up and see if there's one in the area.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have a question from Jeff. He sees one of the clips there says, let your dog lead on the walk. When should your dog be ahead of you and when should you be in the lead?
So my mindset is if I'm on a loose leash walk, so I'm not heeling because I'm going through a crowd or passing someone on the sidewalk. If I'm not in that particular situation, my dogs are loose leash walking and they can be anywhere they want within the range of that leash as long as they're not pulling me. They can be in front of me, they can be beside me, they can be behind me. I don't care where they are in the range of that leash as long as they're not trying to drag me to something. It's not creating them being dominant or anything. It's just they walk faster than you do. So let them get out ahead of you if they want to. Let them get to something that they want to sniff, so they've got plenty of time to sniff it before you pass it on by. But if you're healing, if you are in that situation where you're passing somebody or you're, in a crowd or a busy place, walking beside a busy road and you need them to walk right beside you, then that's that heel position, and you need to cue them so that they know that they need to heel next to you. You're going to shorten up the leash a little bit, and you're going to reward them for staying next to you, and then use the cue when you're done with that to let them know that they can go back to sniffing again. I don't believe in making a dog walk right next to me for an entire 45-minute walk. It just isn't fair to the dog to take them to Disneyland and not let them go check out Mickey Mouse, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. So my plan is always, we're on a loose leash walk unless we're in a situation where they have to be next to me. And it's maybe it's none of my walk, maybe it's a 10th of my walk, but it's very short periods of time that they need to be right next to me.
Okay, great. The next question is from Marilyn. Her dog is not food driven, but he does love attention and words of affirmation. Any ideas?
A couple of things to think about when you think of quote unquote not food driven. If a dog is free fed, if you just leave a bowl of food out all the time and the dog grazes all day, they're not going to be food driven when you want to teach them something, because there's food right over there. Why would I work for your measly treat when I've got a bowl of food sitting over there? Or they're maybe already full. So if that's the case, you can switch to feeding a couple times a day, and so that they don't got food sitting out all the time. Play with their food. So don't just feed them in a bowl twice a day. Take a little bit of that food in the bowl. A little bit of that food's going to go on a snuffle mat. A little of that food we're going to play find it with. A little bit of that food we're going to take on our walk and do scatter feeds. So it's more natural to feed a dog throughout the day in little increments in different ways, because they're scavengers, than it is to plunk it in a bowl twice a day. So take your bowl of food or your daily ration of food, put it in a container, put it on the counter. This is the amount of food I have to work with for today, and I'm going to do everything with it. Now, if my dog isn't keen on his kibble, then you're going to need to sweeten up the pot a little bit, right? You're going to need to add some treats in there. So take some food out, put some treats in. Or you can sweeten up the food and make it a little more enticing by taking one hot dog, cut your hot dog into 4 long pieces, and then cut each one of those long pieces into 25. Now I've got 100 little tiny pieces of hot dog. Put it in a snack bag with about 1.5 cups, 2 cups of dog food, smush it around a little bit and let it marinate. So now all the kibble smells like hot dog. So now you've got higher value food, and it's mainly just kibble. But play with your dog's food. I think playing with their food is what really drives more food motivation for dogs. If you've done all that and your dog loves treats in the house, but he doesn't take treats outside, contact a behavior consultant, because there's something wrong, that dog is either worried or stressed outside that he isn't able to take food. That's one of the big ways that I teach people who have reactive dogs to know if their dog is over threshold, is if they can't eat. Okay, so if your dog is eating fine in the house and doing things and fine with treats and stuff in the house, but he's not doing it outside, there's something more to it than just not food driven. Praise is fine if he loves that. Pippin loves praise, but I mix it in with treats. But you can also do a little bit of tug, right? So if he's walking next to you, hold the tug toy down and play a little bit of tug with him when he's right next to you. You can, if he's walking right next to you, hand him a ball, throw the ball a little bit, a little ways. So there are other ways that you can add other rewards in there. But every time I hear not food driven, I always think to, why is he not food driven? Because all animals are food driven. He wouldn't be alive if you weren't, right? And so there's a reason that he's not taking food in that moment, if that makes sense.
Kerrie, that also reminds me of classes. During classes at Your Dog's Friend, oftentimes people will bring kibble or kind of those bag treats, and the dog, of course, there's all these dogs around, everything's going on, and the dogs aren't paying attention, and they're like, oh, they don't, they're not food driven. But then one of our assistants will walk over with the hot dog or cube steak or cheese or just anything a little bit smellier, and all of a sudden the dog is doing everything that's being asked of. So that
Yes.
totally plays out on walks too, it sounds
Exactly. So remember, your dog decides what's high value, right? If you have bought a $20 bag of yogurt covered chips and you think those are going to be fantastic, and your dog doesn't like them, that's not high value for your dog. Maybe cat food is high value for your dog, right? So you've got to let your dog decide what's high value.
Susan asks, at what point do you phase out treats for praise?
So if you're thinking about like 1, 2, 3 treating, I start increasing steps as soon as the dog is staying right by my side at 3. As soon as he's right next to me at 3, I start phasing in more steps between the numbering, and I start switching up between a high value treat for 3 and a low value treat for 3, and maybe just praise at 3 and kind of start randomizing that a bit. But again, I will say I don't ever phase out treats altogether with my dogs. I take part of their food with me on walks, and we stop and do scatter feeds and find it and things like that along the walk, and play with their food in different ways like that. I just find that using their food in games and on walks and stuff really keeps them engaged and makes everything more fun. Make sure that your praise is something fun, like, oh, good job, that was wonderful, and pat him. Don't just say, okay, good job, and then we walk again. Make your praise really, really enticing as well. But for me and people with pet dogs, I tell them, bring a little bit of food along with you. And if you've got a time where the dog is having a hard time listening or something, or if you just want to practice 1, 2, 3 so that they remember it, then bring in a treat every once in a while.
Kind of along the lines, I just have a quick question. Can you talk just about a good cue word if you're not using a clicker so as not to confuse the dog?
The most common ones are good and yes. But again, you can use any word you want. You can say great, you can say woohoo, whatever you would want to use, you just need to be consistent. Now, when you're going to release a dog from something, so if you're healing and you're going to say release and go sniff, you're going to want to use a cue that you're not likely to use otherwise in the situation. So for example, when I first started learning about training dogs, I was always told, don't use the word okay, because the dog's going to hear the word okay in conversation and think he's been released to move away from your side. So you might want to teach a more unique word that you're not going to use, like release or freeze or free or break or something like that. But it's really your choice of the word. You just need to be consistent with using that word.
If I can ask another question, when your dog does start to pull pretty hard, what actually do you have to do to maybe keep the dog safe and so you don't get pulled over?
Okay, so like I mentioned, if they get out at the end of the leash, they've got a lot of leverage against you. And if you let your arm get out in front of you, even a Chihuahua can pull you over at that point. So what you want to do is make sure that your hands are always close to your sides so that you can brace them against your torso when your dog starts to pull, so that they're not pulling you off of your center of gravity and tipping you over. I always tell people, don't keep tugging on the leash, because that gets more annoying than anything. It's more of a mom, 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 mom. How many times are you going to let your kids say that before you turn around and go, what? Right? And so instead of that, just tug on the leash, stop. And if you need to, start backing up or turn and start walking away from the dog, because they're much more likely, if you actually turn and start moving away from them, your entire body to check in with you and say, oh my God, where are you going? But that idea of not getting off your center of gravity is to keep your hands, don't let your arm get way out in front of you, because that's going to pull you off much easier. If you're worried about that, you could try a waist belt. And if you put those leash waist belts kind of right below where you would put a standard belt, that's about where your center of gravity is. And as long as you're walking upright and not allowing your dogs to kind of tip you forward, you're not going to lose your center of gravity. So just thinking about that, of where your arm position is, and not letting the dog get out at the very end of that leash and expect to be able to hold on to that handle easily. So adding those check-ins, anytime the dog is out there, just start teaching him to check in with you every few minutes.
Okay,
Is that-
great. You mentioned loads of practice in one of your slides. What do you mean by loads of practice?
So I would expect if you're looking at loose leash walking where the dog can kind of go sniff off on their own and check in with you, that's going to be quicker to teach, I think, than it is a heel, because heel is asking your dog not only to stay with you and away from the things, but it's asking them to walk in an unnatural gait for them, right? You're actually asking them to walk in a slow walk to keep up with you, and that feels totally unnatural to the dog. And so they're just going to want to move into an amble or trot, and they're going to get out ahead of you. And so you really have to just completely work on creating a whole new habit of when she says heel, I'm going to be right next to you, and you have to reward the heck out of it. Right. So if you practice for 2 days in the house, don't expect that you can go into downtown Manhattan and have your dog heel, because that's not going to happen. You have to start in little baby steps, especially if you have a dog that is very excited about walks, right? You have to work on that very quiet area where they can do it with no distractions at all. And then have the kids do something in the other room, turn the vacuum on in a different room, have the kids running around in the kitchen, practice in different rooms. Then go out in the backyard and practice when the squirrels are out there, when the neighbors are out grilling, and then move to the front and practice for a couple days doing that. And depending on the dog, the little doodle that I worked with, I worked with them every day for 3 weeks, and he was about ready to go for a walk and pay attention to me at the end of that. So it really depends on the dog and how quickly they engage with you and how fun you make the engagement, and if you have a dog that's just not really that interested in engaging with you, then it's going to take a little bit longer and more rewards to get there. So it's hard to say how long, but I'm not going to say in 2 weeks you're going to be able to go from he can't do it in the house to he can do it in downtown Manhattan. I hope that helps. It's really hard to say how long because it's so individual, and it depends on the dog. I mean, if it's a new puppy, that's going to be not going to take that long because they have no habits to break. But if you have a dog that's 7 years old and they've been pulling on leash for 7 years, that's a big habit to break. And so it's going to take longer to get them engaged and not wanting to pull because they're just used to it. That's just how walks are. So yeah, it's really hard to say how long that's going to take.
It takes patience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Patience, and don't move faster than the dog can be successful.
Kerrie, this has been a fabulous webinar. It's so helpful. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I love doing these.
Thanks so much for joining us today. That's the end of our webinar, and we'll see you next time.